Hello back. Okay, so today I have a couple of things I wanted to discuss. I had a really busy day yesterday and I was trying to put in a video and I was having kind of a hard time with that. So I ended up filling my time with all sorts of other stuff. A lot of it had to do with the website. And I ended up having, okay, how about I don't do that again? I ended up having an interesting conversation with somebody I haven't seen in a long time. And she was saying, you know, how do you get to your website? And I said, it's live, it's available, you can get to it, but I haven't put out any advertising to it. So obviously, you can search it. If you search the term Red-Eyed Radical, you'd find it. If you searched a couple other things that I put in the SOE, which is the search engine optimization fields, if you put in some certain words or titles, then you'd find it. But the problem is, I'm just one of millions of other people that are using those titles and stuff. So yes, you can find it, and I haven't done it outside of any of my devices. I haven't tried it on somebody else's phone to see how easy it is to find. But I'm sure if you typed in Red-Eyed Radical, you would see it. The problem with going to my website right now is that it's constantly changing. So if you took a look at it, say last week, and it had this layout format, and I'm still having trouble with the way it presents itself on certain mobile devices and stuff. So I try to squeeze it. When you build a website, it gives you the option to create it on a computer format, which is widescreen, as opposed to narrow screen on a mobile device. So like my cell phone or my tablets. You forego one for the other. You have to sort of really kind of jigger it around a little bit and try to make it work. And every time I do that, I end up changing the format. I got to learn to stop touching it. Don't scratch it; it'll get infected. I swear to God. So I did it again yesterday. I was on there for a while and I changed over a whole bunch of stuff. The format is still exactly the same. Like it opens onto a main page of. It's a picture of the kids and I at Esquimalt Lagoon. And then, of course, the second page, it wasn't scrolling to the second page, so I put down the links, which it was funny. You went on the website, the main page, you could see the link to the other two pages, but I have three other pages, and I'm going, wow, what happened to that page? And so I went into that page, and I found, oh, okay, well, it didn't have a link to get out. So once you got into that page, you were stranded. And you had to actually get out of the website and come back in. So I fixed that. And building a website, as you know, is tricky in the sense that you're constantly kind of tweaking things. And like I say, you scratch it, it's going to get infected. Seriously, the more I moved, the more I fixed, the more things I found to be sort of not ideal. So I did change some stuff, but I did clean it up, and I wanted to put in some free content, some writing I did, and a beautiful picture of my wife who's deceased, but there's some beautiful pictures of her in there, and then some stuff I wrote, give you a sense of the type of writing I do and that sort of stuff. And that's the whole idea of this, right? Is to just give you an idea of the type of writing I do. And then, as I was saying in my video yesterday, see, I did 2 videos yesterday, but I didn't do 2 videos yesterday. I deleted them forever to the ether. The reason I deleted them is because the first one at 22 minutes, it automatically shut down. I was in the middle of saying something, and it just sort of, okay, you're done. And I was like, no, I'm not. So I went back in. I put in the descriptor and all that sort of stuff. I went back in, tried to finish the video, forgot where I left off. And then as I continued with the content, I figured, okay, well, what I'll do is I'll post them both back to back. Call one of 2 and the other one, obviously, 5 of 2. So when I went to go do that, I thought, well, no, it still looks choppy. I mean, I could still say the same stuff on another video and it would all make sense, but it's not, there's no flow, there's no consistency, right? So I ended up deleting those 2 videos. the point is, when I had gone in and changed some of the content, I kind of reformatted the website a little bit better so that when you scroll through it, it actually has links that go somewhere and lets you leave. So like I say, when you went onto this one page, you're sort of stranded there. You go through the page and go, oh, okay, I'm stuck. And so I fixed that. And then I went to, it was really funny because I went to go get some canvases and some charcoals because I wanted to start doing the final prints that I offer, right? Because I offer prints. And this leads me to this other interesting conversation that I had a long time ago, but I still believe the gist of the conversation is valid. So we're going to talk a little macro here for just a moment. So I was in a mall because I was doing some other stuff, and I figured, okay, well, where in this mall can I go to find art supplies? And I thought, well, there's no art store here, and there was a dollar store, and I thought, okay, well, I'll go there. They must have canvases and charcoals and stuff like that. So I go into the dollar store, I go to the stationery, I go to the art section, coloring books and stuff. And no, I didn't buy a coloring book, but anyway, so sure enough, there's no canvases and there's no charcoal. So of all the things that they have, there was an awful lot of products there. And I'm wondering to myself, because as we know, due to what's happening, in the world right now, shipping and that sort of stuff has been seriously altered. So we're not getting all the stuff that we used to get now. Production has ramped up again in certain places where we get a lot of our stuff, but it's not up to speed yet. So what that does is it affects two things. It affects the amount of product that's available to purchase, the quantity and the quality of the products, like the variety that you have out there. So I couldn't find canvases and I could not find charcoals. And then of course it has an effect on the price of things that are of the stuff that is available, right? The prices tick up a little because it's harder to get them, right? So one price of shipping offsets the price or affects the price at the till. Now, it's not inflation. And I can go into this whole conversation about how inflation is generated, but it's not inflation in the sense that with more money in the system, more dollars are chasing less goods, causing inflation, like price inflation at the till. It's a shipping issue. So when one part of the system breaks down, it affects other parts of the system. If it costs more on gas to ship it, then the price of the items go up to reflect the price of the gas. In this case, if it's harder to find the products, there's less of them. Once again, it is inflation in the sense that there's all these dollars chasing less amount of goods that are available. And in a sense, that's inflationary. That is inflation. But not due to the fact that we've pumped more dollars into the system, but we affected the other side of it. We've reduced the amount of products being produced, right? So it's not inflationary in the sense that a lot of people are saying, if you do quantitative easing or whatever, all the governments around the world are doing that. They're pumping more money into the system, but they don't do it. They don't print money, and the digits that they do print are to banks' reserves. So they're not available out in the system right now unless banks lend. And as you can tell, I don't know if you've tried to get a loan lately, but the qualifications for getting loans are getting harder for anybody. And it's due to the fact that there's two reasons. One is that all those reserves the banks can't touch. So all the quantitative easing money that's being pumped out, the trillions of dollars, it's not available for anybody to touch. It sits in banks' reserves in case something happens. And then the banks, which want to lend because that's how they create money because of the fractional reserve banking system we have, they want to see the interest rates drop dramatically, literally to like zero, because they do earn some on interest, but most of the money they make is from when they loan out $500,000, and they only have to, they can use 80% of that to reproduce another $400,000, and then 80% of that to produce another, $280,000, and so on and so forth. I don't know. I didn't do the math. I'm running on. I'm sprinting on this one. I'm just sort of babbling. Anyways, the point was, when I go to the dollar store, and it's like, well, we don't have the products because a lot of them come from foreign countries. Well, that leads to a whole completely different issue. Companies like used to be Kmart, and companies like Walmart and the dollar store. Well, they get most of their products from places that have cheaper labor, which amounts to cheaper costs on our end. It's cheaper to ship the products, the materials over across an ocean. Somebody over there produces the product and send it back across an ocean, and we still get it cheaper than if we made it here. Well, that's great, because most people are sort of living on the nice edge on this one. But if you stand back and look at it and say, well, if we produced it here, the cost of things would be higher, but the workers from here would be earning more than they do from there. So if we had a system that said, well, we have to buy like 80% local products, then yes, the price of goods would go up, but not everybody, but across the board, most of the people that are working would be earning more money and able to afford that offset. So it wouldn't remove the dollar stores, but it would remove a lot of where the dollar stores get their product, which emboldens other countries. It destroys, or at least mitigates the damage that can be caused by cross-border and cross-country trade, affecting a myriad of things like all these deficits and surpluses that we get in shipping or in trade. So anyway, so when I noticed that the products weren't there, I thought, well, it's surprising. We have this huge, beautiful country, and we can't make canvases. Of course we can. And if I wanted to, I would have just drove to like Michael's and picked up canvases and carbon, so I could finish the prints, and that's what I'm going to have to do. And it's not a big deal. That's fine. I'll pay a little bit more, and then it'll everything will. I'll have what I need. But that gets into that discussion about having dollar stores and about having Walmarts and what used to be Kmart's or whatever. It's one side of the coin to the other side of the coin. Am I willing to pay a little bit more? Yeah, absolutely. Because if it's made in North America, then I'm helping somebody like myself work and pay their mortgage and feed their children. I'm not sending that money off to a foreign country so they can hire slave labor at minimal cost and this whole other thing, right? So whether you agree or not, I'm sure it's sort of one of those things that you either believe that theory or you don't believe that theory, and either way, that's perfectly fine, because we all understand the cost of living here in North America, and if you take out that third world part of it, then, and we have to be self-sustaining, then yes, the price of goods would go up, but so would the cost of labor, and if you earn more, you can afford more. So it's one side of the coin as opposed to the other side of the coin. It's the same coin. Anyways, so that led me into this other conversation, because I was when I was going through my website, and I thought to myself, well, okay, there's for some reason, and I'm not sure how I did this, but now I have every page at the bottom of the page has a link to these videos. And I didn't intend to do that, but I think what I did is I linked it to there's a simple button that when you're creating these things, it says, would you like this on every page? And I must have hit yes, because now at the bottom of every page is a viewable link to all my YouTube videos, but you can't scroll through them. There's just the one that you can see, you play it, and for some reason it's not interacting. And that's perfectly fine. If you go on my YouTube channel, which is Red Eyed Radical, anyways, the same as the website, then all my videos are available there if you're interested in listening to me babble. Anyways, the point was, when I got back into, or when I was finishing up with the website, and I was saving all the information and then publishing it again, I thought, am I ready to advertise? I wanted to go through my website from another source, another tablet or whatever, another computer, and just make sure that all the links work and that you can purchase the novels and all this sort of stuff. So I haven't done what would be the advertising blitz, right? So let everybody, all my friends, my 2 or 3 friends on Facebook or whatever. Anyways, all the people at work and all the people I connect with, and there's LinkedIn and there's all these other social media groups and stuff like that. I'm on TikTok, and do I have any TikTok videos? Probably not. And Twitter and all this other stuff. Anyway, so there's once everything is cleaned up and ready to go, and I'm almost there. We're supposed to be the 19th of last month, but it's not. It's getting closer to the 19th of this month. Then as soon as all that stuff's ready to go, I'll do the advertising blitz, and then everybody's going to hear, everybody I know, everybody within a hop, skip, and a jump connection of me is going to know that this stuff is available. I have this out, blah, blah, blah. You can buy books, you can buy prints, you can purchase flip books. I'm going to have an order of, hard copies available and this sort of stuff. And the Vanity Press, I think I discussed that in one of the other videos. Breathe. The Vanity Press is this other thing. So I was getting into this whole thing where I said, okay, well, I wanted to make sure that my video is working, and so I was doing because the main videos that I did yesterday that I deleted, I was talking about how I finally got my speakers and my microphone working, and I did a test run on doing an audiobook. And I thought, Jesus, my voice sounds even, worse than it normally does. But it's like when I woke up this morning and it was like really hard to breathe. I thought, there's wildfires down in Washington and up in the central BC right now that are causing, like literally, it's the middle of the day. The sun is out, but you can't see it because of the amount of smoke and smog. That's how bad it is here right now, and people are having trouble breathing. There's like nobody outside, and it's unfortunate because it's hard on people. If it's not hay fever, then it's all the smoke from the wildfires, and it's really hard for people to move around in this type of environment right now. Like it already hasn't, already wasn't an issue. And as I was talking to this friend of mine I was talking to yesterday, I said, yeah, everybody's going to be really, really happy when 2020 is over. Me too. Add me to that list. 2020 has been sort of a wash, but for all the bad things that happen, there have been some good things. So I find that it always kind of works out. I'm an optimist by heart. I can be dark, and I can be a little depressed, but that's generally due to the things that are outside of my control, the things that I've gone through, and like everybody, we've all had struggles. It's to the extent of the struggle that you've had to live through, how you dealt with it, and what you're doing about it at this point, and how it's affecting you going forward, and how you've let it affect you, that sort of lay the foundation for what it is you do going forward, right? Because you are a sum of everything you've done. So that itself is one of the reasons I had to put this website out. I had to get my content out. It is the sum of everything that made me who I am. So anyways, the last thing I kind of wanted to bring up was a quick financial thing, because on most of my videos I say, the biggest news right now is what's happening with the financial system. And I think the biggest news going forward right now is something called MMT, or modern monetary theory, which is, neither modern nor is it a theory. It's been around for a long, long time. I look into these things before I talk about them, and I do a fair amount of studying and stuff like that. And they have a base argument that says that the way that governments look at their deficits is wrong. Governments who print their own money, are sovereign governments. They make their own currency. Their banks create the currency. Government buys bonds, goes into deficit. It spends the money into the economy. So the main argument is that if you play Monopoly, this is their point. If you play Monopoly, when you start the game, you set everything up, and then the bank hands out money for people to use in the game. Well, that's the same in real life, right? There'd be no money in the system. I wouldn't have any money. You wouldn't have any money if the bank didn't produce the money and hand it out as a unit of exchange, right? So it is, it's a ledger. Now, when the bank initially hands out the money, that there's always the books always balance out. So the bank hands out $1 trillion. That $1 trillion doesn't disappear. It isn't just a deficit that we have to try to find in the real economy. That $1 trillion exists in the real economy because that's where it went. Whether it went to bonds or stocks or homes or companies or produce or farming or whatever, it's out there. So their deficit is the economy's surplus. Their red ink is the economy's black ink. So they can create any amount of money as long as they have the resources and the people to absorb it. They could sit at 17 trillion, 22 trillion, 50 trillion, well beyond their GDP, like Japan is doing. And as long as there's production and capital to absorb that finance, and in a lot of cases it's home prices and stock market and cryptocurrencies and people making companies and products and the things that grease the wheels of the economy, it's absorbing that money. And like I say, quantitative easing doesn't add money to the system. It actually destroys money. But because it freezes it in the bank's holding account. So as more money is used, say the government says we're going to add more to social programs like they do in Canada with Medicare for all and all this sort of stuff, right? They stopped taking payments for medical, so now we don't have to make monthly payments to a medical plan. It's all free. If they decided, say, that college was free, which would be, I'm all for that. Sure, why not overeducate everybody? It's good that they at least understand when somebody who's been through college is trying to explain something, that they have a good grasp of it instead of just like this vapid look on their face and they're looking at their phone. Nobody wants to have that conversation. It's like being on a date and then the person you're sitting across from is on their phone and you're going, I'm not sure why I was invited on this date. They could have a date with themselves. Anyways, the point was, as long as the economy can absorb the amount of money that's being created, then you don't create inflation, because inflation is too much money chasing too few goods. The traditional term inflation is tied to, like Peter Schiff says, inflating something means blowing or creating a lot of something, so a lot of money is by definition inflation, and that's true. But if the money that they're creating, if the inflation they're creating is being buried then it doesn't have an effect on the economy because it only allows the bank a buffer in order to loan. And until it loans, the money doesn't get into the system, which doesn't cause inflation. And it all sort of hinges on the velocity of money, the amount of times I give somebody $10, they take the $10, they give somebody $8 for something, and then that person gives somebody $6. That money is, the velocity is turning over and over and over again. And if you have like 5 turns per buck, then you have a healthy economy and things are working smoothly. There's no inflation, everybody's happy, blah, blah, blah. And that's what they're shooting for, right? So if you go into the Japanese 200% of GDP, or if the Americans 50% of GDP, or the Canadians 80% of GDP, or 90%, I don't know where we're close to 90% of GDP, or something silly like that, that's fine. But the problem is, and the problem is going to stay, that unless house prices and the stock market stay inflated, holding that money, if it depreciates and the money is disappears, and they pump more money into the system, then you're going to have the velocity, but you may generate inflation, the bad inflation, where the price of goods goes up, and not due to what I was saying earlier about shipping, bringing the cost of goods up, or the price of gas, bringing the cost of goods up. That's not inflation in the sense that I'm talking about here. Inflation being just everybody having too much money but not enough goods to buy things. So they bid up the price of everything. If 5 people want a steak, one guy says, I'll pay you the $8. Another guy says, no, I've got $16. Another guy says, I got $24. You're bidding up the price like they do in housing and in the stock market. That's inflation. So the inflation is in the stock market and in the real estate market. It just hasn't hit mainstream. And that's what everybody's kind of watching out for. Now, MMT says you can, as a sovereign government, you can create as much currency as you like. You can say, I want $2 trillion for an infrastructure plan to fix up all the roads and bridges. And the positives are the money gets put into the system. The projects are allocated. The resources are found and allocated. People are put to work. They're earning money. Instead of offshoring the productivity, we make our own masks. Wouldn't that be neat? That would have been, just saying. Anyway, so that would have helped a lot. If we had the factories to produce these things, then we wouldn't be struggling when we really need them. I wouldn't be struggling looking for a canvas because local companies make that stuff. I wouldn't be struggling for, and the more they make, the better they get at it, the cheaper the prices get again. So even though they start out a little bit high, there's price discovery and everything that happens. So when MMT says governments can create as much money as they want, they'll always be able to pay their debt because they make the money. They are the bank in monopoly. If it says at the end of the instructions, it says if the bank runs out of the money that's allocated for the game, it creates IOUs. So that's all bonds and treasuries are IOUs. The public, foreign governments, and in some cases central banks will buy up those bonds and treasuries. I have treasuries because it's a safe haven, low interest, but like low yield. With a low yield, there's a high price on the bond, and they're inverse, right? So a high yield or interest would be a low price for the bond. It's sort of inverse, but it's a place to sit your money it's highly liquid. So if I need the money back, I just sell the bond back. It's always available as a cash equivalent. Anyway, so that's just one of the things I wanted to bring up. I get more kind of animated about that than I do about most anything else. But anyways, that was this video. I just wanted to sort of explain a couple of things. I'll be creating another video probably this afternoon or this evening, depending on sort of what happens today. I have to work, but I'm just finishing up a couple other things on the website right now, and I'm gonna have to go and see if it actually works. Anyways, have a great day.